Hello, hello, everyone. I got to tell you, man, it is a wonderful, wonderful day. It is so wonderful indeed that I got a, a, a green light, just a glow coming towards me here as my guest today. Some might say that his words are Spartan in nature. I might even call him a chat philosopher because when he speaks, he tends to speak just a little bit here or there, and it's usually to the point and exacting, which is something that I really, really enjoy. But for right now, I would like to welcome the Spartan Scotsmen to the Skits Fun House.
Wow. Dang, that's an intro.
Hey, everybody. I mean, it's late night. Usually I'm asleep at this time, so I'm like, but I figure I still got to bring it. I got to let the people know that I'm screaming, I'm yelling, I'm excited. I got someone here that I'm really going to enjoy this conversation with. So, yeah, there you go. How you like that? How you like that for an intro?
That's energy, man. I like the energy. Energy's good.
Exactly. I mean, if you're going to have someone on, you got to show excitement. You got to give people a reason to be here. It's just like with comic books, right? You got to, first page, you just got to hit them in the mouth and say, bam, this is exactly what we're giving it to you, So that's the way I like to bring it for people, give them a little bit of excitement, yell at them, rile them up a little bit. If I could reach in there, But
yeah, man. I like like I said, I like the energy.
Yeah. Like the energy. So usually you do your shows of late night, because you're on the West Coast. It's late night for me, right. So probably not so late night for you. You're getting started. It's probably at the end of your work day. You're gonna roll right into some late night stuff, So for people who don't actually know that much about you, if there is anyone, let them know who you are and what you do.
Sure. I go by, originally Spartan Scotsman, kind of rebranded a little bit just to make it simpler for people to say, just Scotsman TV, because I'm always streaming, always doing stuff online. I'm a colorist. I'm actually an artist all the way through. I draw, ink, I write, I color. I'm a graphic designer by trade, so I know how to letter. Typography is like one of my disciplines. So yeah, I do a little bit of everything. And I was lucky enough to meet Liam when he needed a colorist, and it was a good fit. So I enjoyed. I'm really into anime and manga. I'm sort of a weeb, but I'm not a kid. but I love anime. I love manga, whatever you want to call it. Some people's tomato.
Yeah. What is that? I mean, let me know which one do you think is right? I mean, I've heard a lot of ins and outs and stuff like that, but it seems like manga is the correct pronunciation. Is that it?
Japanese pronunciation is manga, and that's just the Japanese word for comic book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, what do they have a specific word for comic books in Europe? I mean, the French are really big with the comics and stuff like that. I wonder if they have a specific word, but because we don't call it that, we just call it a French comic book,
Right. So, I mean, Simon might be able to help you with that one because he speaks French, but he's Canadian, so it's a different type of French.
Yeah, it's a little different. I mean, if you were talking to a French person, you said, "Hey, this Canadian's French," they'd be like, "What?"
Right. Well, I'll tell you, because of my profession, I'm a creative director in a marketing department, and basically an overpaid graphic designer who leads a team of graphic designers.
Yeah.
And we have to deal with French all the time. We sell to Costco, which Costco requires trilingual packaging. You have to have English, Spanish, and French on there.
And it's all got to be the same type too. It can't be like smaller for French or
Well, the French get super pissed if you make it smaller. They're like, no, it must be the same size.
Yeah,
they get super angry. So, and plus by law, you'll get tagged in Quebec if you don't have it the same.
Yeah. So it sounds like your day job is very much like a day job I had for a long time. Okay, I worked at a turnkey operation. We did topical creams. We did suntan oil, that sort of stuff, and we did it for like Walmart, Costco, Eckerd's. Well, Eckerd's doesn't even exist anymore. Walgreens, CVS, all those.
Right.
So, and I was pretty much in the same position as you. You lead a team of designers and stuff like that, and you got to make sure that all your specs are followed. Each company has different specs that they need you to follow, and or they'll reject it and all that sort of stuff. So as that type of person, you said it right at the beginning, you got to wear a lot of hats. You got to know your typography, you got to know design, you got to know illustration, you got to know color. There's all these things that you constantly got to. Yeah. It's a lot, and myself, when I went through school, I went to school for illustration and a fine art, So when I got out of school, they don't really tell you this too much in school. It's like, there's not a lot of jobs for illustration,
It's a thin business. Yeah.
Exactly. It's not what it used to be.
Really good. Like really good.
Yeah, you do. And also, you got to be in a certain community. Like you got to be in New York where all the magazines are, where you can get in front of these people constantly, and that was just something I was never going to do. I didn't really want to live in New York, but
it's a rat race, man.
Oh man, you have no idea. So basically, once I got out, I was like, well, I guess I better do graphic design because there's jobs in the newspaper for graphic designers.
You'll never run out of work as a graphic designer.
Exactly, man. Exactly. But you got to be in a big area where people need graphic design. Or with today, you can do a lot of things on, over the internet, which is pretty much how I work today. I don't do as much graphic design as I used to. Actually, I don't really do much. I design products and stuff more today than I do graphic design. I leave that up to other people. I don't have to sit here and go all over my type fonts, all the sizes and all that sort of stuff anymore. So that makes me feel good because after a while it kind of runs on you.
Well, I've been at the same company since for nearly 20 years.
Nice.
So yeah, I started as a junior graphic designer, and I did part IT. It wasn't a startup company, but it was definitely a small business. It grew into a few $100 million and then got bought by a massive corporation. So I work for one of the biggest home good manufacturers in the entire world, and I'm one of the business segments. We deal with home goods and furniture, so sell to dozens of different big box retailers. We do package design, ads, we do point of purchase materials, literally anything that sells a product in the retail space we handle. So yeah.
So why are you dealing with comic books? I mean, if you got such a great job during the day, why would you want to come home and like noodle on comic books? I mean, what's the point when you could be doing
story, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you could be doing more of what you do during the day to probably make more money than comic books,
That's an interesting tale, right?
Let's hear it.
I don't do comics for the money. I know that really angers a lot of comic artists who literally live and die by this, and I mean them no disrespect. I respect the hell out of the craft. It is deep in my soul. I've been a comic book lover and collector. I've been an artist my whole life. The first comic book that I ever held in my hands was Wolverine number 18, and it's behind me in a box. It's within close proximity of me at all times. And I've been a lover of the medium since I was a little boy, since I was 12 years old. That's the first time I held it in my hands. And I have that book, and it's been a part of who I am forever. Wanted to be a comic book artist, found out really quick that the amount of people that want to be comic book artists were plentiful. And I was not as good as the guys that were way ahead of me already. And my dad actually worked in the same building as Extreme Studios. So Rob Liefeld and Fam are right up above him, a couple floors above. And my dad was an appraiser. He worked for a mortgage company. I'd go there all the time, pick up stuff, and I'd go and photograph houses for comps for him for his appraisal work. Can't come back, and I'd see guys coming in like, oh, there goes oh, there goes RT Bear, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I knew who these guys were because I followed the art and always wanted to become a comic artist. And I just played the numbers. I said, you know, I got to go to where I know that I'm going to make the most money for the skills that I have. Yeah. And graphic design was always something that was easy for me. Like it came natural. Color theory, proximity, layout design, typography, those are all things that just jive in my brain, right? And then over the course of all of my college years, I studied fine arts, I studied life drawing. You know, I was really into figure drawing, you know what I mean? Like sequential work was never something that I got into, but I got a job early on at Kinko's by a suggestion for somebody. Somebody's told me, hey, if you want to be a comic book artist, go to Kinko's, get a job there. Comic book artists go in there all the time. And that was back in the day when you pencilers would have to photograph, they would have to get laser copies of their pencils and then FedEx them to their editor or fax them over, right?
Yep.
So I mean, I copied Rob Liefeld's stuff. I copied a bunch of different guys who were local to the Kinko's I worked at. Well, it turned out there was some guys one day that came out into the self-service copy area, and I saw them copying Bristol boards, and I'm like, I don't recognize those guys. Those are nobody I know. But I could tell they were comic book artists. So I kind of moseyed on out to the self-serve area, and I go, hey guys, what you doing? Looks like you're copying some comic art. And they're like, yeah, we're getting ready to go to the Comic-Con. You know, we want to put a studio together and put together our own book. And I'm like, really? Well, I'm a comic book artist. I draw comics. They're like, oh, really? Are you an inker? And I'm like, nah, I don't really know how to ink. They're like, oh, we need an inker.
Yes. Say yes.
Yeah, no, I was like, oh, I don't know how to ink. And the guy who's kind of the leader of the group, he used to work for Jim Lee at Homage as a pinup artist. And he kind of went off on his own, right? And he says, well, I'm really good friends with Marlo Alquiza. If I could talk to him and, maybe you could do backgrounds for him and he'll teach you how to ink. And I'm like, I'm down for that.
Heck yeah.
So we kind of hooked up together. I went to Marlo's house. Marlo was an inker that learned under RT Bear at Extreme. And me and Marlo became really, really good friends. And I was his background inker for all through the 90s and early 2000s. But also during that time, I lived in Placentia, California. And the apartment complex I lived in, another one of RT Bear's inkers lived literally, I could throw a rock and hit his door. His name was Sean Parsons.
Okay.
And I got to know Sean, and I started doing backgrounds for him. And then also through Sean, I met a guy named Larry Stucker, who was another extreme inker, who was friends with Dan Fraga. And I met Dan Fraga back in the 90s.
Nice. So
like I was in comics without really being in comics. You know what I mean? No, and I did one book with this studio that I formed with these guys as their inker. They landed a gig, a little passion project for some independent video game company. The owner of the company wanted to put out a comic book, and so it was a little passion project. He hired us. The guy drew it. I inked it and put it out. I will never say what that book is. It is horrific. I was terrible at inking back then. It is embarrassing that it even exists, but I have one published book to my name, and it'll dox me too, so I don't want to do that. But either way, I have one published book to my name, and I've worked on hundreds and hundreds of pages of various comic book pages, like Teen Titans, Superman. When Mike McCone was on, when he was on Teen Titans, I worked on Tony Daniels the 10th when Marlo was on that.
Nice.
Just all kinds of random stuff all through the 90s and early 2000s. So, and then I kind of fell away from comics for a while. Marlo moved to the Philippines, and I got deep into my career as a graphic designer.
Yeah.
And then I started watching a lot of YouTube because, that's what everybody does now. And I discovered Ethan Van Sciver. And I'm like, I know Ethan Van Sciver. He drew Green Lantern. I never met him whenever I was doing comics, but I knew who he was, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, he's doing Star Wars videos because I'm a Star Wars nerd as well, right? So I was watching the Star Wars videos. I'm like, wow, that's pretty awesome. I kind of really got into his Star Wars content. And then I found out about Comicsgate. And I was like, wait, what is it? There's a bunch of guys online doing comics that they're doing it like just, I thought the indies were just like a waste of time. Like people just barely making it, barely getting by. You know, everybody's wasting a lot of money and time and stuff.
No, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is not a waste of time, man.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? Like when you think indie comics, you think of like these are all people who are you know trying to make it big, and they might be it's just passion projects. It's casual, you know, maybe it's not super serious, or maybe they have a what do you call it, what is it, like a cult following, you know, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. So
you know, when I heard about Comicsgate, and then I heard about Richard Meyer, and I heard about the thing with Mark Waid, and I was like, screw that guy, man. I'm going to be part of this because that's not cool. And then I started learning about SJWs and how horrible like they treat people who are not in line with their views and stuff. And like, I'm like, this is insane. What's going on here? I got to be a part of this. And so I started doing fan art. I started just downloading line arts of people who were putting stuff out on Twitter, inking it and putting it back out. And, you know, I saw on Twitter one day, Liam was like, looking for a colorist, you know, DM me if you're interested. And I'm like, you know, so you could do a coloring test so you could do a coloring test. So I DM'd him and I said, I'll take your coloring test. Cause I mean, I do professional Photoshop stuff for a living. I know color theory. I've colored comics for fun, you know, never professionally, just for fun. And so I'm like, I can do this. So send me some pages. So I colored them for him. And I asked him the one stipulation. I said, I stream on Twitch. Like I stream video games, but also I stream on Twitch. So as long as I can do it like online, that would be cool. So he's like, yeah, totally. So first night he sent me some pages. I went live on Twitch, was coloring them. And I said, so what do you think? He goes, you're our guy. Right there. You're our guy. So, you know, the rest is kind of history. So,
well, let's say hello to everyone in the chat right quick. We kind of got started just talking about all this stuff and getting excited about, you know, comics in the 90s and everything. But
for a while, so
oh man, I know I could too. But let's just go ahead and say hello to the chat. We got Eric McIntyre, man. He's like, I got to go to sleep. I have to wake up at 4:30 before going to work. All right. Good night, Eric. Thanks a lot for stopping by, man. We really do appreciate you. Let's see who else. And of course, I mean, VIP is always first, man. He's always yelling out at me. Thanks, VIP, for stopping in here. We got Black Star 13. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining the late evening show. That's my beautiful wife right there. She's going to be dropping links and stuff like that in there for us. We got Burst Films. They're here. And, of course, we got the Scotsman TV. Writing Comics. Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for stopping by. We got Mandible Smasher. And again, Mandible Smasher, thanks a lot for buying, you know, getting your boy into the comic book. I mean, this is just a pleasure. You know, we just got the photos from you. Just so you know, what he did is we have a drawing tier where you can draw, you know, yourself into the book. He actually bought it for his boy, so his boy is going to be a character in Skits. So
nice.
This is just, you know, exciting. I like this sort of stuff. It's a lot of fun. We got a few other people. Okay, so anyway, I think I'm all the way up here. I just wanted to say hello to everyone who's in here saying, hey, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Hey, man. I know. So what came first for you, comics or artwork?
Well, see, I come from a line of people, right? Brothers and sisters. My mom, her brothers and sisters are all artists of some sort.
Wow.
Some sculpt, some paint, some do fine arts and crafts, you know, some cross stitch, some crochet and knit. Everyone on my mom's side are all creatives. And I grew up as a little boy. We were painting figurines. Like we would go to the figurine store, and there'd be all these plaster, you know, little creatures and things, and we take them home and paint them with acrylics. When I was like 3, I'm doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so from the time I could hold something in my hand, I was making marks on things, whether it was paper or it was painting on plaster or something, or canvas, you know. My mom taught me to cross stitch when I was like, you know, 5. And I thought it was the coolest thing. I was like making like Optimus Prime, you know what I mean? It was awesome, you know? And
Was it in a loop? Was it in a
it
loop?
was in a loop. It was in a wooden loop, and I'm like sitting there doing. I got a pen and I looked at a picture of Optimus Prime. I'm like 5, and I'm like tapping a red marker kind of in a rectangle, and then I made my own pattern. My grandma was super impressed. I've always done any kind of art, any art form is always been. I'll never shut down any art form.
Well, I mean, that's really exciting. When I first went to art school, that's something that I found out from a lot of the kids there, that they all had family members. They were around art when they were growing up and stuff like that. I mean, no one in my family did any art. I mean, we're just kind of a bunch of rednecks and stuff. I tell this to my wife, and I don't know if she thinks I'm joking or I'm just exaggerating, but we had 2 books in the house when I was growing up as a kid. We had the Bible, and my dad had a Daniel Boone biography.
I thought you were going to say a Chilton's manual for my daddy's pickup truck.
But I don't think he ever needed a Chilton manual, to be perfectly honest. He was always working on stuff. He never used any manuals, But yeah, it was just those 2 books. So it's like I wasn't really around too much art, So, but I do remember building stuff. Like I've spent all my time outside, so we're always like around mud and creeks and stuff like that. So I was always building like huts out of mud and bark and wood and stuff like that. That was kind of like the first thing I think I ever did. And then
I used to whittle a lot as well.
Yeah, whittling. Yeah. I mean, that's just something to do with your hands. I just knew that I always was doing stuff with my hands. I was always outside. I hated being inside. I mean, I was just one of those kids that never, and even to this day, I'll be sitting here working. I'm like, man, I need to get outside, man. It's like, I got to do something with my hands outside. I got to be, but that's just the way it is, sometimes. I mean, when you're older, you got to work. But at some point, I had an art teacher, I think it was 5th grade maybe, that sat me down and was like, Michael, you need to draw this. And I was like, okay, I'll draw it. So I drew it, and I guess I was good at it, but the main thing is it's not that I was good at it. It was exciting to me. It was something that I wanted to spend time doing, mainly all I did was sports: baseball, football, basketball, surfing, skateboarding, whatever. Yeah. But this was for the first time, it was something that I enjoyed, that I could let my mind rest on. It just kind of went out there somewhere. And from there, I was hooked. And then shortly after that, it was like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I got issue number 2 on the stands of the original series, for $1. And that was my first comic, and I was hooked. I was like, man, turtles are really cool. It was like 86, I think it was 86, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So, So, like you have your Wolverine. Mine was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So it's like I had drawn. I didn't really like the drawing type stuff. It's like I don't want to draw, a bowl of fruit, But I did want.
Life. You don't want to do still life.
I didn't want to do that, but I did want to do the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So that's what got me into art. That's what got me into comics, So it's always nice to kind of share those stories and stuff like that,
Sometimes when you tap into a vein of something that really drives you, it can create an entire. I mean, look at all the great artists throughout history. They always had their period pieces, that they did of a certain type for like a decade. You'll have what's his name? Picasso's, blue period, and everything's blue, So yeah.
I was always a big fan of the Cubist period, when he was working with cardboard sculpture type stuff. It was like he was just doing cardboard cutouts, maybe some painting behind it. I always liked that sort of stuff. Like the Guernica piece, I always thought was really cool. Like for me, I was like, okay, that's really neat. It's a big, huge painting. He's got stuff cut out and pasted on there, and I don't know, something like that was always that's where I was like, that's my Picasso. I
always thought that was so interesting, how he looked at the world so differently. Like when he would draw faces, he would always draw them so that they could either be a profile or straight on. Like you would see the way he drew his noses, it was a profile, but he also drew the other side of the face to where they look like they're looking straight on. Yeah, it's actually where the Macintosh logo came from.
Yeah, like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, the original Mac symbol with the little slash through the middle, that was a Picasso influenced icon.
Okay, that makes perfect sense, but I never actually, said, "Oh, I bet that was from Picasso." But it
Yeah.
makes perfect sense now that you're saying it.
Well, it
Yeah.
was born around the time whenever they had that slogan, "Think Different." That was
Hmm.
like in the early '90s, whenever the Mac kind of took off in a different direction. Had this whole video of all these influential people, and that's when that symbol came out.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I don't know why I never thought of that before. It's like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, that's obviously what it is. So you got your branding in the background. You know exactly what you're doing. You got your green screen. You
hmm
got Xenotype back there. I brought up.
marketing is my business, man. That's what I do.
I,
Marketing all the time.
exactly. You got to do it. I mean, that's why we're here on YouTube. I mean, geez, it's like that's the only way we can get ourselves out there, get our books out there, talk to people, fans, create something, But you've been talking about Xenotype, coloring it and stuff like that. Now, tell me a little bit about the book, and I'm gonna just kind of show something right here with the book. Go down to the Liam had this thing right here where it was like the graphic novel, manga, all of that sort of stuff right there.
Sure.
And when I first heard about the book and I found out it was like 200 pages for like this price, I was like, man, I got to get this, man. This is like a steal of the century right here. So I went over to the page and I saw this and I wasn't quite sure what the heck I was getting. I was just like, what is this?
Right.
It's a manga graphic novel. I got a book and a poster. But when you go over, it was like, oh, you want the gold, you want the silver, you want the platinum. I'm like,
Well,
man.
one of them, see the manga version reads backwards like Japanese style, right? It reads from right to left because
Yep.
Japanese tankobon style is right to left.
Mhm.
So Odie wanted to make sure to do a version that read Japanese style. And also, so the colored one reads left to right, Western style.
Yeah.
So the manga version at the top there, that one's the one that's backwards. The gold version is the right way, colored. And then the various tiers add in posters, and then the silver one is both of them together, the left and the right.
Okay.
So, and there have been dozens of people. I've gotten messages from dozens of people that have peeked into my coloring streams and go, "I bought the black and white one. I got to refund it. I got to get the color one." I'm like, yes. It's like a little back room competition, between me and Odie. I'm like, that colored one's outselling yours.
Oh, is it? Is it actually outselling? I didn't actually look at the numbers.
By a few. I just poking fun. No, it's all Odie's art. I'm just literally putting color over it. So
well, all he'd have to do is just say, "Well, mine's like twice as much as yours because my art's in both."
right. You can defeat me instantly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
right.
So tell me a little bit about the story. We were talking about this a little bit before the stream, where you were saying like there's a few stories like put together, and that's what makes up the 200 pages. Tell me about that.
Sure. Well, the story is it's set on another planet, right? They're not humans; they're Omen, right? Which is a humanoid type of a race. They look human, right? You can just say they're human, but they're not. They're a different humanoid species. But on that planet, there is an evil force, an evil corporation, if you will, that basically feeds off the people, and it feeds off the people, and it enjoys their fear. Like when they like to eat people, when they do, they like them to be scared because the fear makes them tastier. So yeah, it's really dark. It's really dark. But the main character, Felix Vasquez, he's a comic book artist. He's a young boy. He's growing up to be a young man, and he discovers this crazy the Black Diamond Corporation. They're just stealing people and eating them, right? And one of his friends gets murdered. It's actually in those sample pages down below. And he's basically has to come of age really quick, and discovers he has the ability to rewrite his own DNA to become what he thinks a superhero is. So this guy right here, Esper, that is his superhero form in his mind. So he draws this character on his sketch pad. You see it in the story, and he becomes that when it matters most, when his friends are in peril and basically they have to fight a bad guy. And if you scroll down to near the bottom, there's a picture of one of the main bad guys in the story. His name is Balvor. He's basically a scorpion, crab, lion, manticore type of a thing. And I think below the poster there's a big bloody mess. Keep going. And that's when he's transforming. Right below that, there you go.
Bam.
That right there. So basically he has a big scorpion tail. He's got chitinous armor. He's got a lion's head. But see, the thing is they're all made out of psionic energy, right? They can remake their bodies. So he can transform into his, human form from that. And so these crystals that are all over their bodies, they distribute this psionic energy and allow them to shape change. So yeah. So it's very dark. There is some blood. I mean, I bloody it up a little bit extra. There's a little bit more blood than Odie put there. But, it helps to make the story more dramatic. But, and I tell a story when I colored this page particularly, I kept finding heads. As I was coloring it, I'm like, there's another head. There's another head with no body. There's a torso with no body. There's some arm. There's an arm. There's another. Okay. There's another head. You know what I mean? There were just headless cops. Like these cops came after him and he just fought him off. But see, the interesting thing about him is, and Liam tells this story about him. So Balvor's mass, this character's mass is so dense that the other matter around him is like clay, right? So you see him lunge in and spin around, and he's pulling his tail behind him. So that in the foreground there, that green thing, that's part of his tail. He's pulling it through them all. He's already swiped and decapitated a bunch of them. They're like silly putty in his hands. That's how strong and dense he is. So,
well, this kind of reminds me of this scene before I went live here with you. Me and my wife, we were watching this movie called 13 Sins, I think it is. Mm-hmm. And there's a scene in there where this guy's pulling this wire across this road, and all these kids on teenage to 20-year-olds are on these bikes, motor scooters, stuff like that. And they come flying through, and they all just get decapitated. I was like, oh my gosh, man. Right. My wife loved these types of things. And I'm just sitting there like, oh man, I don't really want to see this right now, And it was just but this scene right here kind of reminds me of that. It's just heads flying, hands flying, pieces of parts.
There are some gnarly scenes, yes.
Oh man. So
Verse Films asks in the chat, he says, what current or older well-known manga name does Xenotype liken itself to? There's a lot of reference. Liam is heavily influenced by Guyver, Battle Booster Guyver, Tokyo Ghoul, various other battle manga like that. So it says it actually up in the description up at the top, would be to be more concise, but particularly those two. If you look at Esper's suit, it's very Guyver influenced. It's got a lot of features that are totally different, but the crested helmet and the way that the body armor is put together, it's got some similarities, but he's influenced by that. So
are you going to be doing any other projects for Liam after this one?
Yeah, I mean, as it is right now, I'm going to, as soon as I finish with Xenotype, I'm going to be coloring Simon Pothier's Tales from the Napverse, and his mini story and his book. And then by around that time, Xenotype 2 will be ready to be colored. So
okay.
So yeah, and plus I have my own manga that I've been writing for a while. That's kind of
okay. So you're doing that. You got Sim's Tales from the Napverse, and then you're saying Xenotype 2, and then you got your own thing going on. Tell me about your own thing.
Well, my story is kind of an homage to my son in a way, and he's 15, but I wrote this. I started writing it a while ago. My wife is Japanese, and my son is, obviously mixed race. But I basically made an alien samurai tale based on the lineage of where samurais come from, and it's all an alien origin. So,
that sounds interesting, man. I always like stuff where it's a mix of ancient history with alien type stuff, or out of this world type things. I always like it when you pull stuff in, and I think that's why those shows like Ancient Aliens and all that type of stuff, why those things are so popular. You've been seeing them going on since like the 60s and the 70s. I mean, was it Eric von Däniken? I don't know how you say his name, but I mean, he had some stuff. There's Chariots of the Gods, and from the 70s.
I take some ancient Japanese technology and kind of give it a different origin. It's kind of shrouded in mystery where human beings learned the metallurgy to make carbon steel. Like it's illogical. Like we don't really know where it came from. There's some people say it came from Damascus. Some people say it came from China. Some people say that it was born in Japan. The idea of taking steel or taking iron, finding it to the point of where you make it into a steel alloy, but then you mix silica with it, sand, and turn it into a hybrid type of a steel, high carbon steel, which allows it to be razor sharp and flexible at the same time. Well, I make the origin of that metallurgy come from an alien source, and it's actually this alien race is able to, the whole idea that samurais bond their soul with their blade. They believe that their soul resides in their blade, right? Yeah. So that thinking comes from an alien source where these aliens actually, their body's energy vibrate that carbon steel and convert it to another element called eternium. And they're able to light it like a lightsaber, similar to a lightsaber. It stays metal, but it vibrates and glows like light.
That sounds awesome, man. I love stuff like that. And we got a little something here from Mandible Smasher that I think this is interesting. I am a hard sell on sci-fi comics, but crowdfunded writers, artists have so many original ideas and art that I am digging it now. I mean, exactly. I mean, what you just told me right there about your story, I mean, that's just exciting, man. That's, that we were talking about it before. It's like ancient alien type stuff mixed with modern type things. And where does these things come from? Because I mean, if you think about it, that's where a lot of our ideas for explaining stuff comes from. I mean, if you go all the way back to the earliest stories, mythologies and stuff like that, it was basically just trying to explain the unknown. It's like, well, here's how it could be. Today we have science to explain the unknown, but there's still more unknowns where we're just like, where did this, what's this, what's that? Bam. I mean, those always make the coolest stories where you're trying to infuse the unknown with,
I want to take some real stuff and spin it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, 1,000 years ago from an alien planet, a warrior priest, he gets separated from his mission and almost killed by his mortal enemy. These demonic dragon, right? They're called Oniryu. They are draconic demons, right? They try to enslave this alien race and use them as a power source because they have complete control of the energy within their body. So similar to things like the Matrix, putting them into like power cells. So they ambush this warrior priest, and he has to eject from his spaceship right as it's being blown up. Right as he's being, they're trying to take him captive, but they blow up his ship. He shoots his escape pod towards the only known place he could survive, like light years away, the planet Earth. And he crash lands at the base of Mount Fuji and Lake Shoji at a fishing village. And since he's a humanoid, he looks a little different, but the Japanese fishermen there, they fish him out of the water and they accept him as one of their own. And he teaches them about the ways of his culture, which is how to use metal, how to use these different metals. But he doesn't teach them about what he can do with the metal because they don't have the ability to do that. Well, he takes a Japanese wife, and his DNA, his bloodline gets infused with human DNA. And 1,000 years later, on a 15-year-old boy's birthday, this ancestor comes to him telepathically to let him know that a threat is coming to Earth and that he needs to awaken the power within him in order to defeat it.
That's awesome, man. When you were telling me about, the ship and stuff crashing at the base of Mount Fuji and stuff like that, it kind of what flashed in my head. Have you ever seen the movie Outlander? I think, what is it? It takes place in like the North region of Europe or something like that, long time ago. And it's basically this guy who he's a military guy and he's fighting these aliens on some outworld planet or something like that. And during the fighting, his ship ends up crashing on the Earth. Yeah. And some of these aliens that he's fighting also land with him. And they're basically like dragons. And it kind of shows like where the dragon myths come from and stuff like that. And
see, the interesting thing about this metal, right? This carbon steel, when they bond with it, they turn into a new element called eternium, right? Mm-hmm. And the Oni Ryu, they try to capture this metal because they can turn it into another type of metal called solium. Solium is the only other alloy that can cross with eternium and not, they can fight each other with it. It's like a yin and a yang thing. Okay. But in order for solium to be created, they have to reheat the eternium into another blade and then quench it in themselves in order to use their demonic blood to basically dominate the metal, right? It becomes part of them now, and it becomes black and kind of dark and evil. But not all of them survive the quenching process. So if you come across one of the Oni Ryu that have a solium blade, this dude is bad. He's lived through the whole thing. Like that's not somebody you want to mess with. So there's a yin and a yang. There's power structures. There's lineage. There's 1,000 years of time. An alien race, telepathic people that have learned to master their own body's energy and DNA and all that. So it's a pretty deep story.
Hey, all the things that make comic books awesome, right?
Right. Sounds like a Netflix original story. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just like, oh shoot, I can't even remember what I was about to say because I went and clicked on this thing here. Sounds like an original. No, man, this is awesome, isn't it? Well, fantastic. So, okay, let's go back to this. So you're doing I got it right here. So you're working on Sim's book, The Napverse. Mm-hmm. When do you think you'll get started on that? How far along are you in the Xenotype?
We're nearing completion. We've got we're about 3/4 of the way done, and like burning through it. Like it's I got a new Cintiq screen right here that sped up everything a lot, so that helped a bit.
There you go. Got one right here looking over at it.
yeah. That was a life changer, man. Let me tell you, because I was using a Wacom Pro before.
Okay.
And now I'm using the Cintiq and like being able to lasso right on the figures instead of like look down here and go like that, night and day.
Hey, so is this your first time ever using the Cintiq?
Yeah. I used an iPad Pro for a really long time in Procreate.
Yeah.
So I would draw and ink and stuff on the iPad Pro.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever used Procreate before.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay. It is like, wow. I can't even believe that program exists.
I know, it's so cheap, $10.
I would pay $110. Like they charge $9.99. Well, the barrier of entry is $1,000 iPad. You know what I mean? Exactly. That's the barrier of entry. But once you get the iPad, a $10 program can do all that.
Yeah.
It boggles my mind.
You can use it and get just as good of stuff out of, like, say, Photoshop. I mean, it's that good. You can get Photoshop quality stuff out of it. I mean, it's fantastic. Plus, while you work, you can record all your stuff too if you want.
Yep. I actually flatten it all the time.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Yep. So you do all your own flats?
No. We've hired Captain F Head from the CGUK. He does my flats, but like I'll give him 5 pages. He'll give me a few back, in a couple days. Yeah. I'll color those, and then in the lag time between him giving me the last couple back, I'll flat a page. He'll give me those back. I'll be done flatting that one. I'll color some more, give him some more. So we do this little leapfrog, bing bong, back and forth between those. So I don't like to have downtime, man. Whenever I can flat a page, I do it.
So do you know what Sim's book is all about? Since we got it up here, I actually don't know too much about it. Should we just go ahead and play the video?
Yeah, the video is made by, I believe, Red Gaze. I think he voiced it. It's about a mercenary who's like a, I don't know if Sim likes to call him this, but some people have referred to him as a necromancer. His arm is like this thing, this power source, and he can like use it to like make machines and stuff out of it, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a really in-depth story. He's explained bits and pieces. I don't know the whole thing, but the video, it's got some good info in it.
Well, let's give him a little love here. Let's check it out. Yeah. Is it okay for children? Do you know?
I think so. I mean, every now and then Sim draws some boobies, but you know, like I think that was more in Blood Hunt. But yeah, I think this one's okay.
Well, let's just go ahead and check it out.
All right.
Tales from the Napverse. This ongoing anthology collects short stories introducing characters within the Napverse and are all connected to the main series, Nat the Mermaid. This 64-plus page perfect-bound anthology series collects short stories introducing Nat, Lawani, Rose, Zed, and other characters within the Napverse that you'll get to know and love in this prelude. This volume contains 2 previously published Nat stories, as well as the previously published Helena Rose stories, introducing you to those characters. In addition, you'll also be receiving 2 brand new stories by Simon Sim Paultier. Royal Rumble, colored by 7 Legions Michael Beacon. Also, Nat and Zed, colored by SPARTANSCOTSMN of Xenotype. Arm up and fire off into the Napverse.
I'm like sitting here talking, and I still got us on mute. I mean, I'm like, it's midnight, people. I mean, what do you want?
Right.
You know? Well, there it is. Sweet, man. That's awesome. That is really cool stuff.
Yeah. It's kind of a cool tech mercenary type of guy, you know?
Sure. All right. Well, I got to tell you, it is late, and I got to get rolling, man. I usually only do, about an hour.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's fantastic having you here,
Appreciate you having me on, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Anytime, man. Oh, I've always enjoyed listening to you speak, when I do catch you on other people's shows and stuff like that. Because, when I introduced you earlier, I was just like, he doesn't say too much, but when he does speak, it's usually to the point. And that's something that I always really enjoy, It's just like, bam. Hey.
I can run my mouth too much sometimes, but I try to be as concise as I can,
Well, myself, I always try and like hold stuff back because I know like I can start rattling on about stuff and I think it's interesting, but usually other people are just kind of like, come on, man. Like,
right.
It's like, so you always got to hold some stuff back, just be like, just hold it back.
I was afflicted with a condition. I have a photographic memory and I remember stupid shit. Buckets and buckets of stupid facts. And I don't know why or how they got in there, but I'm going to be 45 this year.
Uh-oh.
And, all this time I've been picking up these things and, like they got to get out sometimes. So,
well, just like a little bit earlier, you know, I was trying to remember a word, and I'm like, dang, man, I always have a hard time remembering names of people and specific names of items. And I actually found out it's actually some sort of little disability or something like that. I read into it once, but you know, I can remember almost anything I've seen. So I guess that's why I'm a visual artist, you know, so I can go back and like, I'll be trying to say the name of something, and I'll sit there. Literally, sometimes I can draw a picture of it quicker than I can remember the dang name of it. And it's like, how in the world do you remember an entire object, but you can't remember a simple little name, you know? And
well, names are usually the first thing that people forget when they meet people. You know, like, hey, this is Tim. Hey, Tim, how's it going? 5 minutes later, what was that guy's name? Oh my God. Oh, Jim? I don't know. You know what I mean? People do that all the time. So when I meet people, like whenever they say, hi, my name is such and such, I shake their hand, and in my mind, I say their name in my head. That way I don't forget it. I believe you said your name was Michael.
Yes, that's right. And yours is Spartan.
My name is actually John. It's on the campaign.
I know, but I see it and I'm like, well, he wants to be, Spartan.
Yeah. Well, I use the moniker. It's just easier,
Yeah, I don't like to tell people's name unless they, specifically do,
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, especially in the time we're in, and people, they got jobs.
There's a lot of weirdos, man. A lot of weirdos.
It's the world has always been this way, but this is the first time we've had access to everybody. So
access is one of those things that as the world gets smaller, the weirdos, they have way more power than they used to. So
they have the
ability to make themselves look like there's thousands of them, but it's really 5 guys with 9 sock accounts.
That's right, man.
So.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for stopping by, man. This has been wonderful. We'll have to do it again, especially, how long do you think it'll be until you actually start to release your own project? It sounds like it might be a year or two, a couple of years.
I have about just over a dozen pages or so written. I have the entire story mapped out, but I write in comic book script format. So I don't write in like linear manuscript format. I write in tiles where it's like place, time, dialogue, what's happening, page. I lay it all out as I write it. Whoa. So as soon as I'm done writing it, it can be drawn. Like it doesn't even need to be drawn by me. Like I try to be very specific to the panel structure, what's on each panel, all the dialogue, everything's already written, and then, edit as necessary, as I go.
Now, are you going to do the whole thing yourself? Drawing, color, the whole 9 yards? Okay.
I might have Sim help me with layouts. He said, I'll help you with layouts. Don't worry, buddy. I'll help you with layouts. That sounds more Spanish than French, but
Hey, whatever. I mean, we're American. What the heck do we know about accents? Except for
Latin language.
All right, man. Thanks a lot for being here. I appreciate it. And thanks everyone for showing up, man. I appreciate you for being here. I mean, this is a late time, but hey, man, you came by, you said hello. I do appreciate that. We're going to play the
one thing.
Yes, of course. Please do.
Sunday morning, Pacific Standard Time, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do a show called Colorist Gab and Collab. It's a panel where I get all the colorists that want to come on in CG, you're welcome as well, to come on and we talk about how to color comics. And what we're doing is it's an episodic series where we started from episode 1, what resolution you work at. The next one was, how do you flat a page? Next one was, what rendering style do you use? Next one after that was light sources. Last week's was terminology. Learn to speak like a colorist. Because if you learn to use the terms, you can Google, what is ambient light? Google it. You can find a tutorial on how to use it. So every week, what I'm doing is building a series of shows that can be collected together so that someone who wants to learn how to color comics can watch this series and learn from all the colorists in CG, pull all of our knowledge and resources together. And so you can see that a lot of you'll dispel a bunch of myths. Like what resolution you work at? Well, there were 7 people on the panel. We got 7 different answers. You know what I mean? So basically the consensus was just be above 300 DPI and you'll probably be okay. You know what I mean? But a lot of people like, what's right or what's wrong? What do you work at? You know, people panic about certain things like that. So if you hear from all the colorists who are doing jobs right now, putting out books that this is what I do, you'll get a gradient, a range of things, a bunch of knowledge that you can take. And then hopefully maybe we got a colorist out there who just sucks at rendering skin. Well, when we do our skin rendering show, maybe that is what pushes them to the front. And then another creative team will have another colorist to pick from. That means the customers get served better. That means more projects get done. That means we raise the collective quality of all the people out there. So we help Comicsgate grow across the board. So that's the goal for the show.
That's awesome.
Sunday mornings.
That sounds really, really exciting. I don't know if I should come on because I don't color like everyone else does, and I'll probably just make everyone mad.
That's an interesting perspective, though. Could be valuable. I don't know.
I know, but it's like one of those things. I always see coloring programs and stuff, and I'm like, man, I don't do anything like that. That seems so tedious and horrible. I do not want to do that.
Well, when I color on masks. I color with black and white on colored tiles with masks. So I reveal the color of the color tile. So I work non-destructive. If I need to change the color of everybody, whatever this color is, I just double click it and change the color, and all the color on the page changes.
Yeah, see, I do mine like I'm actually doing a physical painting. So I'm just plopping down color and just and I just get it to where I want it.
If it's your work, if you want to change something, it's on you. But if you're doing sequentials for other people who are like, yeah, I like that, but can we make it this?
Exactly.
If you don't do flats and you don't work non-destructive, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, it's best to do everything in a vector-based format. That way you can change anything. It's just all right there, you know. And that's
do that, yeah.
Yeah, it's basically what you're doing. So
yeah. So thank you for letting me plug that. It's just
Oh no, that sounds awesome. I'm actually gonna have to go check that out. And I got it in the description, but why don't you go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you?
Scotsman TV right here.
Boom.
YouTube.com/C. I don't know why they do that. /Scotsman TV. And then also on Twitch, I color stream over there sometimes too. I'm monetized on Twitch. I was there first. Trying to get monetized on YouTube. You know how that goes. So, you know, dual monetization, but I stream over on Twitch and on YouTube a couple times a week. So
nice. And then also on Twitter as well. They can go over there and find you.
SPARTANSCOTSMN on Twitter. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, everybody. I appreciate you for being here. I appreciate, I'm going to call you Scotsman TV now, I guess.
Sure.
So that's kind of weird. Can I just call you Scotsman?
Yeah, everybody does.
All right, John.
That's fine too.
All right, man. You have a good one.
All right, you too.